Life can look way different than we think it might when we enter the grieving process. When coming, let's say, through the grieving process, because it never really ends, but it's never going to be as bad as it is maybe now. And if you're in the middle of it, it can even improve even more. Let me share some of that with you. We feel like a lot of our life has just been lost. There's things to consider beyond the life that was lost in your child, although that is such a hard thing to come to terms with. But it feels like our life just isn't, sometimes worth it, even if we have other children and other family members that are supporting us. What is true, though, is that there's an initial shock, and then the numbness of that wears off. And about 3 to 6 months after the loss, the grief really begins to set in. And that's when the work starts, the hard work. The hard work is a lot of disassociating, like trying to separate from the person that we lost, because obviously we don't want them to be gone. But also, there's a lot of work about ourselves, things we learn about ourselves, things that we're going to blame ourselves for that are true or not true, that lies that are being spoken to us. And so all of these things add up to make grieving such an incredibly hard thing, whether it's around loss of a spouse or particularly a child, which is what I know best. And I'm in the state of anticipatory grief, as I may lose my spouse sooner than I'd like due to a disease process. But hopefully I have a handle on myself where I won't go to where I was when I lost my son. I've learned a lot, and I can tell you this, if I can tell you nothing else: there is hope for you in a big way. You might feel hopeless. You might feel like there's no purpose. You may feel many things. I have one client, she lost several children at one time, and the pain she must feel is incredible. And I hear about it when we work together, but I can tell you that she has also come to a place where she's found hope. So there's hope for you. You just gotta stay the course. Understand that grief demands your respect. If you don't do your grieving process the right way, there is no right way. If you don't follow the process that's right for you and do the process, I'm here to tell you that your grief will be much longer and much more severe than you would like it to be, or it'll come back and haunt you sometime down the road in a way that you don't know yet. At some time you don't know what, and usually, that's not at a good time in our life when something else is going on. Like maybe there'll be a wedding for another child, and you haven't grieved the loss of the one child, and all of a sudden, boom, everything explodes. And what does hope mean for you? That's another thing that needs to be defined, because I know how my role changed. Even though I had still a wife and a son, I felt a lot of loss in my role as a father. And for a time I was trying to redefine myself. I faulted myself for many things, and I believed a lot of lies around a situation that I had no control over. And that's likely your case. But we think if we could have changed that one thing, and that's why we go over and over and over in our minds what we did, what we didn't do, why, because we think that if we found that one thing that could have changed the outcome, we could have made a difference in that loss. Most of the time, we have nothing in our control, and we did the best we could at the time, and we just got dealt a bad card in life. Having said all that, it doesn't make the process any easier. And your process is your process. Now, that's where a good grief counselor can help you, because that counselor is attuned to what your needs are, what your process is, not just some book theory, okay? So that makes a big difference when you're choosing a provider if you're going to work with somebody. And if you choose to do this path alone, I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot longer for you. Now, there are some people that can do it alone. My wife was one of those people. She processed mostly internally, and she didn't need a lot of support. I did need a lot of support because of who I am and how I'm built. And because I needed all that, I have learned a ton about the grieving process and about helping take people through that path. But if, again, like I said before, nothing else I want you to hear in this video is that there is hope for you. And although it feels awful right now, you can still find a life that is fulfilling, purposeful, at least tolerable. But I'm saying we can take you further than that, to a life that has some joy in it again. And that's where in yourself you may not be able to find that joy or experience it because you are busy processing so much stuff inside, you don't know how to access that. You just can't, because your protective mechanisms are engaged. You're overwhelmed. You're trying to figure out a new way life works like without your person, and you're trying to figure out how to get your feet back on the ground. And sometimes even early on, it's just about breathing and walking and sleeping. So once we get past those things, then we can start really doing the work. And the work is really what's important for you to engage in it and honor it. And it's not always easy, but I'm telling you, that's how you'll come through this in a way that is better for you, in my judgment. Now, what kind of work is involved is mostly internal thinking, journaling, doing things, but you need a guide to help you understand those things so that you can really make use of those things and just not write stuff down and not know what to do with it or make out of it, right? So once again, in doing those things and participating in your own process, I'm telling you, there is hope for you, and you can come through this in a better way than you think. All right, until you decide to make those kind of choices, I encourage you to first survive, then to strive, and eventually, maybe even thrive. Look forward to seeing you in the next